Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing my November wrap-up. I miraculously read 9 books in November. The first one was Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This one follows Emma, who you see at the end of the Mortal Instruments series. A couple years later, and it follows her and her parapetide Julian as they try to save their institute. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I'd heard really good things about it, but was very disappointed simply because people don't stay dead in Cassandra Clare's series, and this whole forbidden love thing is grating on my nerves. The next one was The Woman in the Photograph, and this one is about a photographer slash model in the 1930s, specifically in Paris. That one I think I gave a 3.5-ish out of 5. I liked the way it was written, I liked the way it was portrayed. It was just a bit of an odd feeling. The characters didn't, I don't know, they didn't feel quite normal, but that also might have just been me. Next, I read The Egypt Game by Zilpha Keatley-Snyder. This was a reread for me and it got 4 out of 5 stars. I read this book in middle school. It follows 6 kids who find this abandoned backyard in their neighborhood and they magically transform it, with their imaginations obviously, into ancient Egypt, and they each play a part, and then some strange things start happening in their neighborhood that affect how they play their game, and you follow them as they try to figure it out and not lose their game. I also read The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This was another recommendation. Most everybody I've talked to absolutely loves John Green's writing. I am not one of those. Well, that's a lie. I think John Green has a way with words. His sentences are beautiful. I don't appreciate contemporaries. There are maybe 3 that I like, and I can't even think of them right now. But I also just kind of felt like the characters were a little blah. They didn't have anything that made them stand out to me. So I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars because it was better than I was expecting, but it still wasn't a great book for me. I also read Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. This is a sci-fi novella that follows Binti, the girl on the front, from her very isolated tribe, which is based on an indigenous tribe from Namibia, as she leaves her tribe and goes across the universe to a top university. Along the way she encounters some difficulties, and that's where the story follows. There are 2 more books in this trilogy, or novellas in this trilogy rather, and I do want to read them because it's a very interesting thing to see sci-fi through a more African lens. Next, I read The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is a collection of poetry that creates a story. It's sort of a damsel in distress, like Meg from Hercules. I'm a damsel, I'm in distress, I can handle this, have a nice day. Think that when you go into this book. I absolutely loved it. The words are just so evocative, and when you go into the pages, they are so blank for most of it that it made me really want to draw on the pages just some of the things that these words evoke when I read them. This book does have quite a few trigger warnings, such as abuse and eating disorders, so go into it with your eyes open to that. There is a trigger warning page if you want to look at this book, but I highly recommend this. It's fantastic. I gave it 5 out of 5. I also, for nonfiction November, read The Wars of the Roses by Dan Jones. I absolutely love this author. He is British, and he has a series on Netflix about British castles, which I also highly enjoy. It's everything that is complicated about the Wars of the Roses, which is a century of intra-family feuding, and makes it simple, which is incredibly difficult to do, as I've said before, because there are, 17 different Dukes of York, and 12 Dukes of Gloucester, and 14 King Henrys. Not really, but close. And he just takes all of it, and you can follow each of those characters, and you know what's going on, and you know who is who. You know which Earl of Warwick is the kingmaker. You know which Margaret is the queen and the mother of the current king. It's just, English history is a mess. I love it, and he makes it really simple to understand. Also a 5 out of 5. I used the Tome Topple as just a reading guide to get some of the books that were a little bit longer on my shelves done, and one of those was Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. This follows Kale and Nesrin as they go to the southern continent area during the time of Empire of Storms. I enjoyed this book significantly more than I thought I was going to. I was a little bit nervous just because the series is kind of starting to drag on for me as a whole, but since this was a companion book and not strictly about Aelin, I really, really enjoyed it. I loved seeing the more exotic aspects of it, such as the almost Mongolian feel to it and the definitely desert setting, which were just very new, and I loved it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And then the last book I read, which actually I think was one of the first books I read, was Owen by Tony Riches. This is the first in a trilogy by Tony Riches, which follows Owen, Jasper, and Henry VII. Owen is the first of what I consider the famous Tudors. Owen, Jasper, and Henry are kind of the three that got it started. This one follows Owen as he falls in love with Catherine de Valois, who is the Dowager Queen of Duchess in 1420s. He and she have 2 kids, Jasper and Edmund, and then Jasper doesn't have any children that I'm aware of, and Edmund has Henry VII, who leads to the whole dynasty that lasts about a century. This was meh to me. The characters didn't really feel fleshed out, and it felt very oversimplified, especially considering, as I've said, the Wars of the Roses, which this is set during, was a very complicated mess. There is no possible way to figure it out without looking like a conspiracy theorist, because it's a mess. Tudors did create some revisionist history with it, such as the name, the Wars of the Roses, but that's beside the point. Like I said, this was just sort of a meh book. The characters didn't feel fleshed out, and it was oversimplified, especially for the time period in which it was set. I did give it a 3 out of 5 stars because it was fun just to see a historical fiction book about Owen Tudor, who you basically never hear of. That is all I have. Those are the 9 books I read this month. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a big thumbs up, and if you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button down below. I will be coming at you soon with another video. But until then, bye!